Okay, so a little bit about myself. I've been in training and development and people development for the past 19 years. I see Janine is on the call. We've worked together as well over at TFG. So thank you for everybody that I know personally that's showing the support this evening. But speaking up and using your voice, it's quite something. It's like a universal thing that people are challenged with. Some of the things that we ask ourselves would be, you know, when can I actually speak up and say something? Is this a good time for me to do it? Is the context right? And so we are, you know, we're filled with all of these different thoughts before we actually open our mouths to talk. And something that I have found is, regardless of where you are in your career, you could be starting out in your career or you can be in the executive suite. We all have these nerves that we hold, and that has an influence over our thoughts. And those thoughts create these blockages for us. And so when I ask the question, you know, can I ask my partner what he really feels? Is that going to be something that I can say? Listen, can say. Sometimes you look at your children, if you have any children, and you say, well, I want to be the cool parent, but can I actually say that? Because that's going to put a boundary around my child and they may not see me as cool or approachable. So we're sitting with all of these things, not only in the boardroom, but we're also sitting with those things even in the bedroom. And we're sitting with those things with our, you know, when we face with our children. So it really is one of those universal tapestry of life that kind of joins us in our challenge, but it is something that we can actually approach and we can deal with, because it is a skill that you can use to lift and louden your voice. So tonight, I'm going to invite you to be free, to share from your heart, okay? Because, and I see Colin Swartz there, hello. And I see that you're also being free with your voice, even though you're on mute. So I'm going to invite you to just be yourself. And I know that when I am myself, you can be yourself. And when you are yourself, then I can be mine. And that is what we can depend on as human beings. Right. So let's just move, yeah. Michelle Obama said something very powerful. She says, there's a power in allowing yourself to be known, to be heard, in owning your unique story, in using your authentic voice. Now that is something that is extremely powerful for me. There's a power in, first of all, allowing yourself to be known, allowing yourself to be heard. No one can hear you if you do not open your mouth and share your voice. And owning your unique story and your authentic voice. Now, the reason why I said this is something that I help people with in terms of coaching is that I've seen this firsthand with my daughter. Her name is Gina. She's 10 years old. But a few years back, she said something that was very powerful to me. The phone was ringing. I answered the phone and I saw her face change. And I wondered, why is this child's face changing? And then I brushed it aside and I continued with the conversation. When I had hung up, she then asked me, Mommy, was that work? And I said, yes, why? So she says, I know your work voice because you've got the home voice and you've got the work voice. And I was just taken aback and I didn't realize what was happening. But she realized what was happening. She realized that when I showed up at home, I had a certain way of speaking. And when I showed up at work, there was a different way of speaking. Has that happened to any one of you? And I realized that there was so much more to what she was saying in just that one sentence. And it made me really take a step back and think about how I communicate. And how I communicate was seated deeply in the way in which I grew up. Now, I know that there's some, I don't know if there's any international, I know there were some people, international delegates that were registered here tonight. And you may not understand this, but in the South African context, you know, something that I'm owning. I'm not speaking on behalf of everybody of my race and my background. But growing up, I was born in the 1980s, 81, and I was born into a culture which was referred to over here as the colored culture. Surrounded myself in church, in all the different environments, schools, and there's a certain way of speaking. When I got into university and when I got into some of the other places into work, I realized that there were different accents. And I realized at that point that I was changing my accent and I wasn't understanding why. And when I went a little bit deeper, I realized why I was doing it. And the reason is, I thought, when I speak in my home accent, that I will not be accepted in the place which is my business. And that for me hit me like a ton of bricks in the middle of my eyes. It was then confirmed a little bit later when one of my managers said, I really like Candice, I really like her energy, but there's something that comes across as not 100% real. And then when I thought about it, I realized it was Jenna's words again. It was the fact that I was altering my voice. And when I was altering my voice, I realized that I was also altering the message that came across. And that for me was my freeing, defining moment, where I realized that your message, how you present yourself, everything that you put together, that is your authenticity. And if you cannot own that authenticity, then how can you own your voice? So what we're going to do now is we're going to have some time, and I shared a very personal story, but that is why I think I'm going to open that up for the conversation. We're going to break out in rooms a little bit later. And hopefully the story that I've shared that was very close to my heart would allow you to free your voice so that you can also feel a sense of trust, a sense of responsibility towards the person that is listening, and also responsibility to yourself to really take this time to find your voice and to let it shine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have an activity, okay? And the activity is just to allow yourself to release your voice. So if you, let's just see if I can see all your faces. I'll go to participants again. There, I can see a couple of people in front of me. Okay. So the activity is we're going to free our voice from the inside out, right? So if you've been working and you've been over your computer the whole day, I'm going to ask you to just stand for a little while, okay? And now I'm going to ask you to breathe in, but you'll take your two fingers, these two fingers, you'll hold them by your navel, okay? And then push your shoulders back. Breathe in from your navel all the way in. Lift your shoulders over your head. And now take your right hand and lift it to the ceiling and stretch. Can you see my face? Stretch all the way over. And still maintaining that Pilates core and over, out. And stretch. And out. Okay. So now I want you to say in your normal voice, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now I'm going to ask you to do it one more time. Inhale, hand over your head and stretch. Up to the sky, down, and the other way.
Sure, we all feel silly right now, Candice.
Okay. What's that?
I'm sure we will all feel silly right now.
Good, that's what we were going for.
Exactly.
And so now the first thing that we have is, we had the first time, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now say it with your arm, with your shoulders back. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Who saw a difference in that? Raise your hand. So that over there is a voice coaching lesson that I learned. When you're about to go out, if you're going to go into a meeting, if you're going to go anywhere else, then that is how you would actually stretch yourself open. Because when you are open, then your voice travels better. But we're not going to be talking about that too much. We're going to be talking about something that goes a little bit deeper this evening. Okay. That was something that will allow your physical voice to manifest. But what we're going to be talking about now is what is sitting below what people can see. And that is something that is linked straight into your heart, because it doesn't matter how many exercises you do. If you don't understand the blockages that could be preventing you from moving ahead, then it doesn't matter any of the exercises that you do. What matters is that your heart, out of your heart, your mouth will speak. Okay, so that is what we're going to go and do a little bit now. Okay. Can you guys see that? I've got a little bit of a delay on my end. So your voice carries more than words. Some of you may have seen this before, but your voice carries 7% of it as words. 55% of it is your body language, okay? And the tone of your voice is 38%. That's almost 40% of your message is the tone of your voice. So for example, if my husband comes home and he's a little bit late, I could use the word fine. He says, how are you doing? And I'll say, fine. That's my words. But if I say fine, sound familiar? Then that is 40% of the message, or 38% of the message that he's hearing. If I were to roll my head and say fine, then that gives a completely different message as well. So your voice carries more than words. Definitely. And if you're still wondering about it and you have any doubt, then this could be a familiar picture when lockdown was announced that it would be open till the end of April, and we're still sitting. So the lady on the right-hand side, she is telling you what the real message is that people are actually receiving. What we're going to do now is we're going to watch just a little clip. Okay, but for this, I'm going to have to just end the show because we tested this earlier and sometimes the video doesn't play immediately. So I'm going to go and into my screen, and Lenore, if you can just tell me that you can see it once it's playing. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're watching a little clip. What is more important is not necessarily the content, but what is happening between the two people doing spoken word. Watch it, and then afterwards we're just going to debrief it in the chat. Lenore, do you see something happening there?
I think we're still seeing your presentation. Yeah.
Oh, should I stop sharing and then go in it again?
Yeah, maybe you can try that. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So let me just get out of presentation quickly. I'll go stop sharing, and then I'm going to go back in again. Are you able to see it?
Yeah, you just need to share. There we go.
Right, just play it quickly. Can you hear? Yeah.
The first day I realized I was black, it was 2000. We had just learned about blacks for the first time in second grade at recess. All the white kids chased me into the wood chanting slave. My mother said I refused to come out for 3 hours. Said she thinks I was lost in the trees, but I just needed to be closer to my roots.
As a woman, having a boyfriend is a battle. If 70% of us are abused in a lifetime, what is the number of men doing it? The answer is not one man running faster than light to complete a mission, and that is what leaves me sick.
The second day I realized I was black at the gas station. I only had 25 cents, so I searched what to spend it on. The cashier floated from aisle to aisle, eyes fixed on my hands. That was the first
sure I remember my place. I battled between wanting to own my body and accepting there's a 1 in 4 chance a man will lay claim to my skin, a plot of land for the taking.
The last day I realized I was black was in an elevator in California. To the white woman that told me she knows what it feels like to be black because she grew up poor, I would tell you to think before you speak, but your mind has got to be bacteria infected. And any filter through that labyrinth of nothingness might be worse than no thought at all.
There's a group of women going around the room sharing their personal definition of feminism. He is the only man in the room, and all of a sudden, the tone switches to destroying the patriarchy by annihilating all men.
Do you know what it feels like to be black? To pop lock your way in and out of hugs, it is not a problem you want to sympathize. But to tell me you know my pain is to stab yourself in the leg because you saw me get shot. We have 2 different wounds, and looking at yours does nothing to heal mine.
Never will I turn away an ally.
But when a man speaks on my behalf, that only proves my point.
Movements are driven by passion, not by asserting yourself dominant by a world that already put you there. You speak to no pain you only fathom because we told you it was there. You know nothing of silence until someone who cannot know your pain tells you how to fix it. Every day is a crucifixion, but there is no regard for lines crossed.
I fight so my voice can be heard. I fight for the voices you silence, all in the name of what is right. The problem is
you assume this struggle is attached to a social class. I am black and bold and beautiful by nature. Ain't no income that can change that.
the problem with speaking up for each other
Is that everyone is left
without a voice.
Wow. Okay. Are you able to see the screen again?
All right, now we see you, Candice, so I think you just need to share your presentation.
The screen should stopped. Okay, I'm going to go back here and back into the presentation. Wow, powerful, hey?
Definitely.
Ask you a range of questions. Okay, can you see?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, awesome. So now I'm going to ask you a range of questions. I mean, watching that, I really enjoy spoken word because people really speak from their hearts. But what was happening over here? What were some of the things that you noticed? And at this point, you can put it in the chat.
Or even if you would like to,
I'm not able to see the chat at the moment, but is it okay if I just ask you to maybe unmute yourself and then just say what you thought about it? What was happening in this clip?
Hi,
for me it was interesting, you know, just to see the different experiences through the other person. So I think when the woman was speaking from the men's perspective, and obviously a lot of it is based on, you know, things that he's experienced, either biases or other even more horrible things. You know, it's interesting hearing it from her perspective. It's almost like it really cuts through a lot of the, you know, the things that, I don't know, if you did experience any biases, you would go beyond that. And I think when he said it from her perspective, that was also powerful, you know, and the way that they had expressed it from an emotional perspective. I think it made it very powerful, just, you know, just the 2 different experiences from 2 different people from 2 different backgrounds. And it really cuts through some of the biases that you may or may not know that you have. So, yeah.
Yeah. And especially since they've been speaking on behalf of each other.
Exactly.
I see in the chat that some people didn't hear the clip as well. So Lenore, I'm sure that I can send the clip to you and you can make it available to people after it. Is that good?
Yeah, definitely. We'll post it on our Facebook page, and yeah, in the break when everyone is going to be busy, I'll be popping the YouTube links as well, so that you can watch it in your own time. Yeah.
Okay. I see Mindy. Mindy, thanks for joining us as well. You said that you wanted the link, so Lenore's going to sort that out for you. And Rivka, you said that you can relate so well. Tell us more about what you related to specifically in watching this video.
So my comment about, thank you so much, hi. So my comment about relating was posted a bit earlier on with the use of, what was it again? Just the way that we speak in different settings, home in comparison to the office. But with this video, the sound was also a bit distorted for me, but I could pick up on that the one was speaking for the other. But what stood out more for me was how the use of tone invoked different emotions. So even though I could tell that the female was talking about the grievance, because of the tone of her voice, there was still a sense of calm, whereas the aggression in the male's voice came through quite strong, and I could almost like feel his rage as well. So for me, it was more tone. I picked up on the use of tone.
Exactly. Thanks for sharing that, Rivka, because you're talking about the tone. What he was trying to get across was a passion, but it was said in such a way that it was just the words, and it got irritated at some point because it wasn't fully getting to grips with what he was really feeling. I see, Janine, that you spoke something about biases here. Would you like to just share that quickly?
Yeah, sure. You know, I think when you watch everything that's going on currently, you realize that as much as some of it, that's why I'm saying I hope to believe some of it is unconscious, but when it isn't, people you can't get carried away with emotions too much. You almost have to balance that so that your message comes across clearly and unemotional. That it may not be explicit in it, but it's how I feel in the current reality as well as this video.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's so many, I think that some of the things like Black Lives Matter and everything that is very topical right now, you may speak on behalf of somebody else, but in actual fact, you don't really know their true journey. So I know that is definitely, and one of the things that I think is so important here is to realize, I think what comes next, which is, oh, can you see that? Sorry. Michelle Obama, she said it so beautifully. And she said, if you don't get out there and define yourself, you'll be quickly and inaccurately defined by others. Is that not just the truth? I'll read it again. If you don't get out there and define yourself, you'll be quickly and inaccurately defined by others. And so what we're trying to do here is to try and speak about the importance of putting your voice through your own mouth and releasing it from your heart. Because if you don't do that, then someone will do it for you. Somebody said this to me once. They said, if you do not have your own agenda, you will become someone else's, part of someone else's. And the very same thing can be said when it comes to using your voice. And then we do have those defining moments. Can anyone recognize or remember what this scene is of a movie? If you have, then just shout it out.
The choice.
Yes.
Yeah?
This was the Matrix, remember? And then they was presented with these two choices. And they had two pills. The one was the red pill and the other one was the blue pill. If you took the blue pill, things would go exactly the way that they've always been. And the red pill, things would change drastically. And so when we are using our voices, we come to that defining moment. I see myself going a little funny over there. Are you able to hear me okay?
It was breaking up a bit slightly, Candice, but I think it's better now. Yeah.
Okay, great. So those defining moments, they are all around us, you know, when we're having the conversation with our partner, when we are having the conversation with our boss, asking for our increase because we know that we actually deserve it, or role change. Those are the defining moments, and we get to choose which pill we're going to have at that time. There's also an interesting, oh, are you able to see this? Giving me a message. There's also this interesting thing that when we speak about the use of our language and our voices, it says that life and death lies within the power of the tongue. And in actual fact, there's also, oopsie, sorry about that. There's also a verse in Proverbs 18 verse 21 where it says, the tongue has the power of life and death. The stakes are high. Your words can either speak life or your words can speak death. our tongues can build people up, so you can edify people, or you can tear them down. An unchecked fire doubles in size every minute. So people speak about the use of the tongue. You speak about it all the time. When you are speaking something into the atmosphere, that is what you attract. And I think that is why people find it difficult to put their words together, because they realize the power that this word can have. But it is true that life and death lies within the power of the tongue. And your silence can also create this. This is a picture of Queen Esther, where she had to speak, in her case, on behalf of the Jewish people. And that led to the prevention of genocide in her case. Some of the other people that we can celebrate today would be people like Greta. Are you able to see her face on the left? Where she speaks on behalf of, she speaks for a cause, and the cause is that she wants to be able to see, and her next generation to see, a world that is not completely devastated through pollution. Anyone recognize the lady in the middle? Her name is Emma Gonzalez, and she spoke on behalf of her friend who had passed away because of gun violence in the USA. And anyone know this lady over here on the right? Malala? Yes, I see a couple of nods. If you want, you can just unmute yourself and you can tell us quickly about her story.
I think she may be the youngest Nobel laureate, I think.
Yes. And you know why?
Well, I think it was a fight for gender equality for young girls.
Absolutely, because she's experienced it herself. In actual fact, I think that she was shot for speaking out and hunted down. And that didn't stop her. So she realized that her voice was small, but her voice was powerful. We've also got, so it's Greta Thunberg, Emma Gonzalez, and Malala Yousafzai. I always get her name wrong. Sorry about that. We also have a local activist as well. At 13 years old, I don't know if you're aware, but Zuleika Patel, she was in Pretoria, and she is a product of a mixed race marriage, where her father is Indian and her mother is black. And going to school, she was always challenged with this thing where people would say, tidy up your hair. And she just got sick of it. And at 13, the picture on the right is her speaking to a principal in silence, looking at him with her hands over her head, saying, this is enough, enough is enough. And because of her putting out her little voice to a big, big world, she actually changed this for so many girls in that school, but also across South Africa. So that was actually a beautiful story. And this is her today. Oops, sorry, let's just go back one. This is her today. And she's beautiful and she loves her hair. She embraces it. And she's got this thing, don't touch my hair. Just speak to me about it. And this is beautiful because it shows that in her young life, she was able to free her voice. And later on, she's able to be the spokesperson for so many different causes. Isn't that awesome? So I'm going to ask you, if you've got something, a pen and a piece of paper, just to write down, what do you need to unmute in your life, your relationship, or your career? So if it's something that is, just think about it, life, relationship, career. What stands out there for you? Write something down under each of those headings, or the heading that means the most to you. I'm going to give you just a minute to think about it and to write it down, because we're going to need it for a little bit later in the presentation where you go into breakout groups. So when you're done, just go, I. Minute is just counting down. Got about 20 seconds.
Candice, I think the relationship one could be tricky.
The relationship one is tricky.
I think how much, I mean, how long is a piece of string, you know? On forever.
Yeah.
So I think let's stick to life and career for now.
Too. I stopped sharing the screen because I'm actually going to go into a little video again and show. Okay, so now for a little bit of music. Okay. Just gonna put this. Okay, Lenore, I'm going to start sharing the screen again, hey?
Yeah, sure.
Can you see that?
I think it's still coming up, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna. Okay. I just wanted you to see that. What did you notice? What were they playing?
Marimba.
Marimba. Okay. Stop. Let me just get back into this again. Share screen, and I'm going to get back into our presentation. Okay. Can you see that? No.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Excuse if there's a little bit of a delay on this end, hey? Let's just quickly see here. Lenore? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's coming up, Candice.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Sorry about this. In and out of the presentation. I think that if we had to show it as it was a little bit earlier, it would have been quite sticky. Okay, so we're going to speak about the marimba and what the importance it has for your voice. Okay, so what is the marimba made of? Anybody? It's made of wood. Yeah, yeah. So it's made of wood, and it says there that, you know, when you're cutting down a tree, it says there's actually a proverb that says the axe forgets but the tree remembers. And the marimba I'm going to be using as just you know, an analogy so that we can understand what our voices, how it's affected and how it is created and honed. So the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. What we mean by that is when we are faced with life, with different challenges, we get, you know, it doesn't matter where the marimba ends up, where it started has had an impact on the way it sounds. Okay, so this is what the marimba looks like. And the marimba, and this is something that was taken a picture that was taken out of a village in Africa. Now, the marimba is made up of keys, and the keys represent our capabilities, our competencies when it comes to communication. But then these things at the bottom, they're called resonators. And the resonators are made of gourds. And the resonators, they are, if they are full of things, then the sound doesn't travel nicely. So the resonators, we have to ask ourselves the question, what is it that we carry in our feelings, in the relationships? Because that can actually be preventing us from moving ahead when we have to free our voice. It doesn't come out a certain, the way that we would like because of the feelings that's attached to it as well. And the frame speaks about the context. So when we are using our voice, sometimes we use our voices when it's not called for us to use our voices. And other times, and then you get into trouble. And then other times we use our voices, but at the wrong time. So the context is very important. That frame, that actually tells us how we can and when we can use our voice so that it can actually resonates with people in the environment as well. And then we've got the mallets, these two little sticks with the ends, they are the mallets. And we're going to speak about them a little bit more because they actually control the sound. And then there's also the strings. And the strings look like really insignificant things, but the strings are what hold it all together. So the question there is, how do we actually increase our range? And the range we're speaking about here is our power range. Because when you are playing that instrument, like you saw in the clip earlier, you can go really, really like this, it's got a tiny range. And then there's also, as you understand and you feel more comfortable, you can actually really maximize that instrument like you can with your voice. So the range of acceptable behavior, if we look at that, if we feel that we are acting in an acceptable behavior, if you just take it into maybe the boardroom, okay? You are happy to speak about a topic and you're kind of in the middle. You get rewarded, and so you stay in the middle, right? But then there are certain things that we feel we are too weak to speak about. And so the resonators underneath there, they're quite small because we actually have, we don't really have a feeling or a want to actually speak about that because we maybe don't know too much, or we feel, we don't feel a sense of confidence. Then if we keep quiet, we can get punished. We can get overlooked, for example, or people won't understand our position on something. So we can't hold it against them because we haven't spoken. Then on the other end of the equation, we are too strong. We come across as like too passionate, and sometimes it can come across as aggressive. And then in those cases, we get punished for it. And that can be, oh, can we please have an offline conversation about this from your boss or whatever. Sound familiar? So this range of acceptable behavior, it's always there and you feel it. No one speaks about it, but it's there, right? And the thing that happens over here is you find yourself in this low-powered double bind. Now, why do we call it the double bind? Because if you've got low power, the one bind is that we get unnoticed, and the other bind is that we get rejected. And so if we find ourselves either unnoticed or rejected when we speak too much, then that actually feels it makes us feel like we have low power in this area. Then we have this other thing called self-promotion. Can I speak about myself? Can I promote myself? Or will it come across as bragging? And over there, you also have a low power because you may not necessarily understand your full capacity and your potential. So if you don't speak about it, but you know that you are good, then you get unnoticed and overlooked for the position. And if you speak about yourself too much, you may be rejected by the rest of your team because you want to be that person that is like always ahead of the curve. Make sense? So you need to find a way where you can actually balance across this double bind that you find yourself in. And so how you do that is you grow in self-awareness and also social awareness. And that is how you become a power ranger when you are doing your marimba voice. Okay. So you become that Power Ranger when you grow yourself and your social awareness. And the way that you do that as well is because, you know, we are faced with blockages or things that hold us back. It is so important to have somebody that could hold you accountable. And that's where a coach comes in, because a coach can help you get past those blockages, and you don't feel that you are bound within those areas any longer. And that is something that I can assist you with. And there are other coaches out there as well that are able to assist where communication is concerned. And what we will do, or what a coach will do, is help you when you look in the mirror and you look at this image, for example. What do you see there? Anybody?
Well, I guess in the mirror it looks bigger than in real life, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it? So
yeah.
this is Mindy. Thank you. So is it kind of a pawn and a queen, like the transformation?
Yes, yes. So that could be how you view yourself in the mirror. So you could see yourself as this queen, or, you know, and at the moment you feel like a little pawn. So what a coach or somebody that holds you accountable can do is they can actually help you pass these blockages and the way that you see yourself. So when you look at these two mallets, they represent that. The first one is how I see myself, because if I see myself a certain way, I start acting in a certain way. That is actually, maybe I am a queen, but I'm acting like a pawn. We won't put the two together, pawn queen. That sounds a bit dodgy. So what we see is we see ourselves in a certain light, and other people see us in a different light. So how I see myself and how others see me, that is that maybe there's a misalignment over there. So there is this thing called the Johari's window, and you may have seen this or may not have. But in a nutshell, what it is we need to get to a place where we are known to ourselves and known to others. Because if you think about the word a window, if you're going to try and get some air into a place, what you're going to do, you're going to open the window. We don't want to get into a place where we have blind spots that we are unaware of, or hidden areas that prevent us from connecting with people. Because when we do that, we will never get to a place which you look if you're looking at the bottom right hand block, where it says it's unknown to others and it's unknown to self. Because just listening to people speak at a memorial service today, his name was Gavin Jansen. He was able to really be a giant in his calling, because he got to a place where he lived with an open window. And because he did that, he was able to get to his potential and achieve his potential and legacy. So once again, the use of your voice is so important, and you need to be able to challenge yourself in that area. This picture over here speaks about not the X factor, but the U factor, Ubuntu. Now I know that we've got Mindy, you're from the US, and there's a couple of other ladies from different parts of the world. Now, Ubuntu simply means I am because we are. That is something that's a term that we have here, but it's also a real feeling. It's an African feeling that we have. So I am because we are. And if I don't use my voice, and I don't use my voice in sync with other voices, then that could have an impact on the entire story. And that's why it's so important to really value and hone your voice. The strings that we spoke about earlier is the strings of respect, understanding, and trust. And if we have a good balance of that, trusting ourselves, respecting ourselves, but also others, when this is in place, then we know that the sound of our marimba voice will resonate with people and will carry in a beautiful way. So now we're going to just talk about some of the different I know that's our time. I think it was also a little bit delayed. So Lenore, are we okay for time?
Yeah, I think if everyone is still interested in continuing the topic with us, we've got a few things planned.
Okay.
And maybe if you can just bear with us for 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So
that's all we
everyone is okay for time and finding the topic interesting so far.
Yeah, we did start a little bit later. Okay, awesome. So when you look at this picture, do we have any dog lovers? This one really spoke to me, because when it comes to using your voice, you have to consider the voices around you, but you also want you want to be assertive, right? Just one moment. Oh, and then sorry, wonderful. Sorry about that. So this up here speaks about assertiveness. Okay. Assertiveness is getting to a place where you respect yourself enough to say, you know what, I'm okay and you're okay. And so the first style over here, or the strategy that we look at, if you look at your list that you had written down, something that you're wanting to address in your life, in your relationship, or in your career, if I don't believe that I'm okay and I'm just going with the flow because I think everyone else is, then it means that I live my life in a passive block. And if I become, if I get to a place where I'm really not okay, I think you're also not okay, then you get to a place of passive aggressiveness. And so, you know, that feeling of, you're not using your voice, you're not loving the people around you, you just get stuck. And so being assertive is being able to understand your value and understanding the value of others, and say that we can share mutual benefit here. And so getting to a place of mutuality. So that's the first one. And maybe you want to make a note of it, because we're going to get back to it later. That's assertiveness. Okay, this picture over here was also quite an interesting one. It's petals that's exploding as a volcano erupts. Isn't that amazing? I thought that was quite a cool picture. And there's a saying that says, just get this out of the way here. Who would like to read that actually? Anybody can unmute and read it.
Nicole, can I pick on you?
Sure. Okay. If your heart is a volcano, how shall you expect flowers to bloom?
If your heart is a volcano, thank you for that, Nicole. If your heart is a volcano, how can you expect flowers to bloom? When you are holding something, a message or a story in your heart, and you don't allow yourself to free your voice and share it, then how can you expect things to bloom? This is something that really spoke to me, because, you know, if I just think about the story that I started out with, I couldn't expect people to take me seriously. I couldn't expect people to understand my story if I didn't share it. And so that is why it's important, when you think about those little resonators at the bottom of the marimba, when you clear your heart and you're able to share your voice, you live freely. So your tune changes and your melody changes, and you feel that you are able to live in harmony with people. There's a recipe that I'd like to share in how to actually give feedback. And this was quite helpful, and it's something that is quick and it's easy, and you can just like remember it in your mind. You've got your camera, you've got your spyglass, and you've got the flame. And when you're giving feedback to somebody and you're sharing what is in your heart, that explosiveness in your heart, just take a breath like we did earlier and you define the situation. So when so you can fill in the blanks. You can say what the behavior was that was offsetting in you. And then the last bit is using the I language, where you say the impact is this. So are you pointing a finger in any of these steps in the recipe to somebody else? No, you're not. You are owning your feeling. And so when I own my feeling, someone cannot argue with that because I'm owning it and I am releasing it as well. So I've actually not given my power away. I am sharing the power of my voice. When I give my power away, it is just throwing my hands up in the air and saying, I don't want to deal with this. But then that doesn't clear your heart. So that is a recipe for giving feedback. Okay. The second thing over here that helps is they found that women are really good negotiators, right? But it was found that women become even better negotiators when they are advocating on behalf of a cause or others. Is that right? So if I'm not advocating for myself and I believe I'm advocating for others, then all of a sudden I'm speaking a little bit louder and with more passion. And so that is what people have said in terms of negotiating, is that is one of the things. It's about advocating a message. And when you do that, you speak with much more passion. It's called the mama bear effect. So I'm going to ask you to do something quickly because this is the next strategy. I'm going to ask you on your forehead, okay, on your forehead to write the letter E for me. Just to draw the letter E with your, not with a pen, it's fine, with your fingers, okay. So just do the letter E. Let's see. Okay, so everyone's done the letter E. Now think about the letter E. Now draw it down. How did you do it? How did you do your letter E? Think about how you did it on your forehead and then just transfer it on the paper. I'm getting tongue-tied here. So if your letter E was drawn back to front, okay, like this, then it means that when I think about something and I'm under pressure, if I draw the letter E back to front for myself, but the other person gets to see it, then it means that my natural inclination is to go others first. And if I take that same letter E and I do it inward, and that is for me, then it shows that my intention is to look at myself first. Okay, so that was an interesting study that was done. So next time when you're with your group of friends and you ask them, just quickly, just draw a letter E on your forehead, you'll start to see where the intention is and where does the intention lie, for yourself or for others. Isn't that an interesting activity? The whole point of this activity is around empathy. What's happening in this picture? Mindy, can you see it? You can unmute.
Yes, I can. Yep.
What's happening there?
It's just perspective.
Absolutely. So the guy that's on the island is going, yay, boat. And the guy that's in the boat is saying, yay, land. So with empathy, if you think about, trying to change your perspective and look at the same situation, but from someone else's perspective, it changes things up a bit. It helps you to take a step back so that you can understand their situation before you use your voice. That's called gaining perspective. Okay, once again, just glance your eyes over to your list that you wrote initially and see if it fits in anywhere there. Okay, then this one over here. Are there any moms in the house tonight? Okay, this looks familiar, right? School lunches. There's something called flexibility and giving options. So when you're saying to somebody that you would like them to do something, okay, here's a secret. all of these lunches, they're all, what do you notice? They're all healthy. And so you're giving your child different options, but they're all options that you want them to go with. So you're not being someone that is aggressive and we're going this way. You're giving them options and you're showing flexibility. And when you do that, your voice is accepted so much better and so much more, because people realize that you're not one of those Kostapels. You are actually someone who is flexible. This picture over here, Colleen, what's happening in this picture? Can these two get along?
I think they can, depending on what is the blackbird is going to say. Actually, I can see the bird.
They're two very different animals, eh?
Yeah.
But what can that little bird do in the rhino's ears?
Can clean the ticks and it can whisper in its ear.
Absolutely. It can whisper in its ear, it can catch the ticks, it can sing little songs. And what can the rhino do for the bird? Provide a food source, right? So
Absolutely.
There's mutuality here. Thanks for sharing that. They gain allies. So when you are about to go to an important meeting, instead of just rocking up at that meeting, you can gain allies. You can go and find out about what their strengths are and ask the question, what is your opinion on this? What do you think? When you do that and you get back into the boardroom, what's going to happen? Do you think you'll gain support quicker? Yes, it's happened before, because people will see that my advice was taken on board. When you share something in a boardroom or in a meeting, you can make reference to something that Lenore had shared earlier. And when you do that, you build social support and you become more influential. So what happens is I can strengthen my voice in the inside of the situation by strengthening my allies outside the situation. And so once again, put your eyes on that list and see if it fits into any one of the things that you're wanting to challenge. When you do that as well, can you remember this? The self-promotion double bind. When you are speaking and others support you, it's because you have grown a relationship with them that says you matter. And when you do that, people are far more inclined to see you as someone that will promote them, and therefore they promote you. And so that is all part of that whole Ubuntu spirit, because you realize that I am on my own as an island, I can go to a certain point and my voice can go to a certain point. But when I include the voices of others, we become a harmony. Make sense? And then this one over here as well is showing passion in your expertise. If I were to come here tonight and say, and this is what we're going to talk about today, voices, the strength of voices. Imagine I had to do that. You would like think, what the heck? You know, I don't want to be part of this conversation any longer. Because if I don't represent who I am with the passion that's intended, then nobody else is going to want to buy into what I'm speaking about, right? So it's about showing passion in describing something that is important to you. This is a picture that I took the other day in a coffee shop. It was Dr. Zeus. Who would like to read this one? Let's see. Nicole, would you like to read this one? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory.
Yep. So what is in the, what do you see in those frames? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
It's your what if, your should have, your could have. They all sit in the frames. And that is why we're going to go into breakout rooms quickly, because we're going to have some time to think about, we're not going to, we've obviously got these challenges in front of us, but we've got some strategies that we can speak to, that we can use. And so I'm going to ask Lenore at this point, if you can help us, we talk about a Hall's moment. We free our voices in our throats. So we're going to have some time to get into breakout groups. We've got 6 minutes for this, and this is the challenge. It says, in your breakout groups, you'll be paired up with somebody on this call. Which strategy that we discussed now will have an impact and will increase your power range for the unique situation that you face. Discuss this with your partner. Each one has 3 minutes. It's timed in the breakout groups. So if you don't get the end of it, it's actually going to kick you out and back into the call. Okay, so this is your time to actually speak about it with your partner. Are you guys all clear? I'll say it one more time. The strategy that, or the thing that you had written down on your page in the beginning, you are going to make reference to that situation. Choose one, the one that's most important to you, and then use one of the strategies, which is either the negotiation, okay, the assertiveness, or the mama bear effect. Is that going to help you? Or the empathy, showing empathy towards somebody else and taking their perspective into account? Or are you going to give someone options? If you're thinking about giving them options, what options would you like to put together? Discuss it with your partner. Or are you going to find a way to get social support in your situation? And if you're wanting to speak about a dream, for example, or if you're wanting to speak about something that is important to you in a relationship.
Just before we get to that, Candice, I just sort of have a question for you, because I think really you shared so much of the gems, and I think your content for itself. But if you had to give everyone some like 3 things that you want them to walk away with today, what would that be? So as we go tomorrow into our normal day today, and obviously what we're going to try and share on all our platforms are those 4 strategies that you put together, because I think those are important to keep in the back of your mind, like a toolkit, which you can still make your own. But what would be the 1 or 3 things that you want everyone to take away from this talk today?
Yeah, well, I think first of all is just to say that it came out of the conversation that I had with Inga, and when I use my voice, it's not only there to empower me. That's the first thing. It is there to empower the world. The second thing is, if I were to see my voice as an instrument that could be used for the glory, for what I was called to do, and the glory of God who I serve, will I use that and will I tune it so that I can speak freely and I can speak with passion? And the third thing is to say that my silence robs the world of what could be possible. And if I knew that, how could I change and challenge myself to tune my instrument today? And yeah, so I think that those would be the 3 things that really kind of I challenge you with, because your voice, it carries power, and when you understand the range and that it can actually be increased, that you are able to do good, not only in your own life, but you're able to do good in the world.